We'll start with the next one, which is Suresha Sharanam Sharma Vishwareta Prajabhavaha. So Sharma, it comes in the 10th sloka and the 87th name, which is one whose nature is supreme bliss. Illusion created worldly life. There is sorrow in worldly life, a great deal of it. Lord Vishnu controls such illusion. He is beyond worldly life. He is above sorrow. He is always full. He is always in bliss. He is the Sat, Chith, Ananda, one who always remains in bliss in the Sarma. Lord Vishnu is the Sharma. We will come back to understanding Sat, Chith, Ananda in a moment. Vishwareta, one who is the cause of the universe. Retas means the seed or the semen. Just as the tree comes out of the seed, the universe has come out of the Lord. He is like a seed from which evolves the universe. The universe is the effect and Lord Vishnu is the cause. Someday we will visit a very nice extract from National Geographic, which echoes the same words as they draw in their own poetic way the science behind all of these that we are interpreting as Lord Vishnu. But we'll visit that beautiful thing in another of our conversations. Prajabhava, or one from whom all beings have originated. The universe originated from the seed which the Lord placed in Prakriti. Lord Vishnu is the father of the universe and its beings. He is the instrumental cause as well as the material cause of this universe, is objects and being. I think that we'll try to appreciate all these three names by again revisiting the Sharma name, which right, Sharanam Sharma. But in this comes the Sat, Chith, Ananda. So let's maybe start from there and make our attempts to understand and make it a little more closer to our hearts, a little more closer to the experiences that we have already had. So if we break that, Sat is truth or real. I'm giving the Sanskrit translation into the English. Sat is truth and real. Chit is eternal, which means it's continuous, it's there over any period of time. And Ananda is the happiness, or you feel fulfilled, right? Fulfilling or fulfillness. So if it's Sat, there is truth, and if there is that is the truth itself, that also comes to the point saying, oh, is there untruth as well? So we had visited that name earlier in terms of, oh, it is all Lord Vishnu's Maya or illusion, and we took a greater appreciation when we had gone into the Krama name, which was the 79th name, in which we appreciated what Maya or illusion was when we stood from 2 points of view, where the worldly view or the one where we thought of the Brahman view, that's where. So, but let's again make one more attempt. We will be repeating all through as we go, and repeating always reinforces ideas from different perspective. So it's again going to be a reinforcement of that idea in a different perspective. So the best way or the best approach to understand this concept will be to take a counter direction, right? So you have Sat, Chit, Ananda, but hey, what is the Sat, Chit, Ananda? I never experienced it. So let's take the counter position and try to understand it from another direction. So we'll start with what we know, right? What we don't know, we will leave it. We'll start with what we know. So in some way, you could say the whole of this universe is perceived through the 5 senses. So I can see it, I can maybe contemplate upon it, or I hear others talk about it, but I'm essentially consuming many things in this universe, including our daily existence, the food, everything, the heat, the cold that we experience in the 4 seasons here, everything through those 5 senses. So this universe that is made of this matter that we know is ever changing. So it's changing, universe is changing. Now, the Indian or the Hindu philosophy point of view claimed that this perceivability of the changeless universe, right? We use the 5 senses to perceive the changing universe. So, but the perceivability of the changeless universe lay beyond those sense levels. So it's beyond those 5 senses is the argument that they placed. We, of course, had earlier placed the argument that if something like the universe has come into existence, it must have come out of something. And only nothing can come out of nothing. If there is something, it should have come out of something. And if it has come out of nothing, it has to be nothing itself, was the rationale that scientific mind places it. So the real substrate from which all these things have emanated is the real material, or the Sat material is the argument that it would have. So now if we rewind and summarize it, so this lays before us 2 aspects at play. One, there is a changing or the unreal, what I think the philosophy calls it as Asat. And then there is the changeless that the philosophers recognized, and that is called the Sat or the truth material, because it is changeless. Rest that is changing is like a magician, like he shows you a picture of one dove or a pigeon, and from suddenly out of nowhere he pulls out a living pigeon from that same picture out of it. But what was changing like a magician is treated as the unreal or the Asat, and what remains changeless is treated as the Sat material. So now coming again, counter view is where we are attempting to make our travel. The philosophy that the sensory world alone is true, this philosophy that the sensory world alone is true, is called the materialism, right? Or the materialistic world, as we call it. It only believes in what it sees, what it enjoys, what gives sensory pleasure, the 5 senses through which you consume. That is the materialism that is there. And there's an astrophysicist, I think his name is Millikan. He says in a very nice way, in terms of his comment on the materialistic world, he says the philosophy of materialism is the height of unintelligence. The philosophy of materialism is the height of unintelligence, which essentially means you're living in a world just consuming, enjoying things. What happened to curiosity? What happened to your elevation into a certain personality goal or expanding your heart? Everything is just removed. You live as a pure consumer, or a consumerism and the materialism that comes along with it. And such feelings that Millikan had commented of saying is the height of unintelligence, it's pretty much echoed, if I could call it, by many such Western scientists too, who are realizing of such a field of existence beyond the five senses experience, and attempting to recognize that Sat is actually that force behind what we actually are seeing, as against what we see in the matter or the material world itself. So the Indian point of view, I think we also talked of it when we talked of that 79th name, which is Krama, of the potter, pot, and the clay, right? So there are three different things in certain philosophies and religions, but everything was seen as one, is how we articulated in our study there about the one infinite reality which appears as matter in the world outside. So that's the Indian point of view, which is we saw one infinite reality which appears as matter in the world outside, and as the self within as Brahman, which is he's there inside us, he's there inside you. And is he only in shares of portions? Like, how much of it is he there in you? How much of it is there in me? As you grow older, does more of him come inside you? No. We made the argument that he is in equal portions, except that once you cultivate the characters and capability, the yogic power as it's taught, he tries to expose, or you unreveal that capability that is hidden inside you, the potential force that's inside you starts emanating outside. And of course, there are different paths: the path of knowledge, path of bhakti, and many things, and each one are equally qualified as the guidance that is being given. And of course, there are many who followed it, and they're even today, right? They may be 800 years old or 2000 years old, but even today you pretty much take their names because of certain paths that they pursued and became the prominent figures in those parts of bhakti movement, like Mirabai and the equivalent. Then of course there are many acharyas who pursue the knowledge path, and they're cited even today as well. So now we said, hey, that the power is there in us, and we call this Brahman, and we call this as the only reality, or the Sat, or the real material. The rest is all changing. Now the Western scientists too are now appreciating that matter itself is only a condensation. Matter itself, the things that we experience in those five senses, that matter itself is a condensation of a consciousness visible to the sensory system of man. Now, who is the Western scientist? I'm quoting Einstein here, and maybe I'll quote what exactly he said in their time and period. So he says, we have in today's physics two realities. The Newton thing was all over. They went into nuclear physics, and as they went into that, and of course in the Vishnu Sahasranama, to some place it comes as Anurananiya, meaning you're there even in the microcosmic as well as the bigger universe that we perceive as well. So as the scientists of the Western world too experience, come on, they're as humans as us, right? So we have in today's physics, there's Einstein cites that there are two realities. One matter, the other is field. So two realities, one is matter, the other is field. And he says both cannot be true, for the field alone is true, and matter is only a condensation of that field. So it's very interestingly, you could in some way goes back to what we or the person who gave us the pale blue dot story earlier. He also talks of how we are all made of stardust. We are all, as humans, made of stardust, is the claim that he had put. And this little picture or illustration I captured from I think National Museum archives, in which I think the bottom part is written as most of the elements that make up the human body were formed in stars, is what the citation is. And we know we need oxygen, carbon, whatnot, right, for us to survive. And essentially this illustration gives what percentage is there, and all those have come from the star, the superpower from which one source through which all that matter has come together. In some way you could say enough scientific proof of things are condensed into matter. The different field power that existed in the star came into all these elements, and those elements condensed and came into many things of matter, not just outside what we feel through those five senses, but our very own body on its own. There's a very beautiful narrative. I think someone had asked a question about, is reincarnation possible, right? Would you be born again? And that's one of the philosophies that comes in the Bhagavad Gita too, that once you experience me, you will never be born again, is what the Bhagavad Gita cites in the voice of the God. So there is a very nice articulation or a theory that is tabled of the Panchikarana, which means there are five elements, and when it all comes together is where the matter is formed, and Apanchikarana is where you again dissolve into those five matters. And it's the background image that you see behind here is the nebula, in which the stars coming and going off together, and as they go off together, which means the gravity and the inner energies have formed an imbalance because of this. The big star as a sun, like a sun, turns nebulous, which means it turns back into its primary elements, or the Panchikarana there has begun to, or Apanchikarana there has begun to happen. So net, it's the Sat is the truth, that is something that is the primary material through which everything comes forth. Chith is eternal amidst all things that are changing, something that remains same among all things that are changing in this universe. And the Ananda, the Satchit Ananda, is knowing which, or realizing which, you completely attain a state of fulfillment. So that is the Ananda aspect of it. So knowing that we're all made of such energies and it's stationed inside us, let's go into our meditation.